All right, ladies and gentlemen, so today we're going to work on our last lesson for this chapter, and it's on multiplying and dividing integers, which a lot of students find to be a little bit easier than adding and subtracting. There aren't as many different rules, but then the hard part is keeping our rules straight from and keeping them separate from our adding and subtracting rules. And we're going to make a little foldable to help us with that. First, though, we need to talk about ways to write multiplication, because we're going to try and get away from using the x for multiplication, because eventually we're going to be getting into algebra where we're going to need that x. So anyway, one way that you can write it, I'm just going to pick two numbers, -2 and 3, is you can put the second number inside parentheses. So when you don't see a math symbol in between the two numbers, right, see there's no symbol in there, that's telling you that it's a multiplication. You could put both numbers inside parentheses. And again, same thing, there's no symbol right in between there, and that's how you know that it's a multiplication. And the third way is that you can use a dot. With the dot, though, you want to make sure that you don't put it too low because you don't want it to look like a decimal. So I'm just going to put up here, and I want you to write down, be careful of placement. Right? We don't want it to look like -2.3. All right, so let's talk about our rules. So the first thing we do is we actually multiply or divide the numbers. So there's none of this, am I adding, am I subtracting, am I changing it into addition, blah, blah, blah. Multiply or divide the way it says. Then we worry about the sign. If the signs are like or the same, your answer is always going to be positive. If they are unlike or different, your answer is always going to be negative. We also have this triangle that we can use that I'm going to explain how that works in a second. But the triangle does not work, so not for two positives. So if you could again add that in, the triangle doesn't work for that because a positive times a positive is always going to give you positive. All right, let's go through our example. So we have 10 times 7, so I'm going to multiply those together and get 70. Now I'm going to go back and worry about my sign. So when I look, I have a negative and a positive. Those are unlike or different, which means it's going to be -70. If I was using the triangle, the way the triangle works, now usually I would cover it up so you could see, but since I'm recording, it won't let me do that, so I'm going to cross them off. So you cross off what you have. So I have a negative and a positive, and the one that's left over is the one that goes with your answer. So we had a negative and a positive. I have a negative left over. So I'm going to erase this so that we can keep using it. All right, so then I have 7 times 10, which again is 70. Both positives, it's always going to be positive. Letter C, -9 times 4. Well, 9 times 4 is 36. They are unlike signs, so it's a negative. Going back to the triangle, cross off this, you're left with a negative. I don't want to keep doing that because then I have to keep erasing. Okay, moving on. So -8 times -6, well, 8 times 6 is 48. The signs are the same, right? They both have negatives, so those are like signs, which means my answer is positive. If I was using the triangle, cross off the negative, your positive is the one that's left over. Okay, moving on. So now I have -9 times 5. Well, 9 times 5 is 45. Negative times a positive is a negative. Letter F, 13 times -3. 13 times 3 is 39. Unlike signs means that it is a negative. So division works the exact same way. Isn't that nice? So we're going to divide the numbers first. So 39 divided by 3 is 13. I know that from letter F. And unlike signs means that it's a negative. Letter H, 18 divided by 2 is 9. Like signs means that it's positive. I, -16 divided by 1 is 16. Unlike signs means that it's negative. For letter J, -25 divided by -5. So 25 divided by 5 is 5. Like signs means that it's positive. Letter K, we have to do 15 divided by 3 is 5. Unlike signs means that it's negative. Letter L, 32 divided by 4 is 8. Unlike signs means that it's going to be negative. Letter M, this is called an exponent. hopefully you remember that, and we're going to get into that a little bit later on as well. But an exponent tells me how many times we have to multiply a number together. So this really means -3 times -3, because there's 2 of them. So 3 times 3 is 9. Like signs means that it's going to be positive. For letter N, I'm going to go in order from left to right. So -3 times -4 is 12. And then if I do 12 times -2, that's 24. Positive times a negative is a negative. And for letter O, we have -1 times -1. 1 times 1 is 1, and then like signs means that it's positive. So what I want you to do is to pause it and to do the try these. Okay, so pause it. When you're done, you can absolutely start it up again. So take a look, check your answers over, see how you did. And as always, I'm not going to sit here and read them all to you, but if you have any questions, of course, bring them to class, send me a note on Edmodo to let me know if you weren't sure. All right, any questions? I will answer them tomorrow, and have a nice night, guys.